Some souls refuse to move on after death. Fear, shame, and long-held beliefs often become an invisible prison, keeping spirits trapped between worlds. This episode explores a powerful encounter with a spectral nun and 8 ghostly children, lost in the in-between, bound by guilt and the doctrines that they carried in life. My work as a shaman includes the delicate process of guiding these souls toward the light. This work has revealed profound lessons about forgiveness, spiritual liberation, and the illusions that both hold the living and the dead in place. This spirit encounter challenges what we think we know about the afterlife. Oh, and you'll get to meet the Archangel Michael. Our ancient ancestors had a tangible bond with nature and the cosmos. That bond is broken. Join me, Shaman Eagleheart, as I connect with spirits. Spirits who want to share their advice about how we rebuild this bond. In the way that I was trained, when you become a shaman, you make a contract with the spirit world. They will do work for you and you will do work for them. One of the things I do for them is being a psychopomp. The word means a conductor of souls to the afterworld. A psychopomp's role is not to judge the deceased, but simply to guide them. The work continually teaches me about the multidimensional universe that we co-inhabit with spirit. Well, for instance, I've learned that the whole moving toward the portal of light at the time of death is a real thing. Sometimes souls don't go into that portal and they end up stuck here. It seems that if the death is sudden, the soul gets separated from the body so fast that no portal is summoned. It's also the case that sometimes those who die with heavy emotions like guilt or shame actually refuse their portal. I remember one ghost spirit telling me that when you are aware that you are going to die, your soul calls down the portal. It arrives and hangs out with you until your death, when your spirit leaves the body to reunite with the entire soul. Now, this ghost had done a lot of observing of how this all worked before coming for my help. And she also explained that through this same portal is the way that your dead relatives come to visit and prepare you for the journey. So, if you miss the portal, you don't get the portal, or you refuse the portal at the time of your death, you are stuck between worlds and you need help from a psychopomp. Evidently, only a living person can open this type of portal, and I've been trained to do this. So I keep a journal of my work as a psychopomp, and I thought I'd share one of these stories. When I moved into this apartment, the place that I set up to draw down this sort of portal when required was near the big windows above one of my altars. I didn't really think this through, because this location is next to my dining table. Now, it has so happened that my transitioning help became a bit well known in the spirit neighborhood, and a bit too often, spirits would show up across the dinner table asking for help. It became increasingly inconvenient to have spirits interrupting my dinner, so I made a deal with the spirit world. I created an energy boundary in my entryway to keep spirits from coming all the way into my apartment. And I also created a clear way for spirits to get my attention. Just inside the front door, I installed a motion sensor light switch. I could go about my regular life, and from time to time, for no apparent reason, the light at the front door would switch on. I would know that there was a spirit there, and I could go and assist them. It's really a beautiful thing to witness. When the portal opens, love and light just stream in. It bathes the entire entryway in the swirling colors of light. And you can feel these waves of love and a sort of like tingling sensation. It gives me goosebumps, and it also gives them to the people that are with me. Okay, so that's enough background. Here's the story I want to share with you. One time when the light blinked, I went to the door and I saw a nun with a line of 8 children. Based on what the children were wearing, I'm guessing that they were hanging around as ghosts somewhere since around the 1940s or the 50s. The children were thin and pale, they had torn clothing, and a few of them wore rough boots, but most of them were barefooted. And the nun wore a black habit with rosary beads hanging down from her waist. It was clear that the nun was in charge of these children, but a girl who I'd say was about maybe 10 years old broke rank and came forward. I wrote down what she said. "There's 8 of us, but we used to be 10. Did me brother and sister come to your place yesterday to cross over? They said they were going to the place with the light, and they ain't come back. We want to know where they's at, if they crossed." Well, I confirmed that a couple of days before, a little boy and a little girl had come. Now, hearing this, all the children turned and glared at the nun. Another young girl turned to the nun and said, "See, we told you so." And then she turned and looked at me and said she didn't want us to come. Well, the nun rebuked the girl, saying, "Well, they were bad children to do that, and God is punishing them. You know that you children were never baptized because you were bastard children. You all died in sin. You won't go to heaven, so you're better off staying here." Well, the children fell silent, but the nun continued, "If you go, you will be sent to hell." Well, I couldn't take this, and so I interrupted. "No, that's actually not the way this works." I crouched down to the children's level and I said, "The light is the light of love and forgiveness. When you cross, you're welcomed into a state of grace and forgiveness, and you float up into the air surrounded by love." The young girl who'd taken the lead said, "Okay, so what do we do?" So I drew down the portal, and they all sort of backed up, and they were a bit nervous. So I said, "Do you feel that? It's love." And there was a bit of jostling and looking at each other, but I could feel that their energy was shifting, and there was a peace and a calmness created. Oh, I remember one little boy just closing his eyes and kind of absorbing all the unconditional love. "Well, just walk into the light," I said. And with that invitation, the youngest child, another little girl, maybe 5 or so, wearing only a dirty singlet, walked forward and raised her arms. They all watched as she started to float upward. Oh, I so remember this. There was this brilliant rainbow that swirled around her. And as she rose, she started giggling and kicking her legs like she was swimming up into the light. Well, that was all they needed to see. And the rest of the children, they just all went for it. Oh, I remember the colors. It was growing in brightness, and it became really, really blinding in my entryway as the children departed. And the nun actually turned away from the light. But every once in a while, she'd look out of the corner of her eye and kind of watch to see what was really happening. And after they'd gone, I motioned to the nun and I said, "So, you can go too." Well, she shook her head. And she said, "Maybe they can, because they're innocent children. But I can't go into the grace of God. I'll be taken to hell." Well, I tried to explain to her that this concept is something that she's inherited from her culture and her religion. That when you go, there is no judging. You have choice. You go into the light, to a beautiful place, a place where you can choose. You can choose to cycle back and learn more lessons, or you can choose to hang out for a while, or you can choose to go somewhere else. But you cut me off. "That's not what happens. I'm a sinner. I know what my punishment will be." Well, sometimes this happens. Sometimes spirits come and we have this kind of a conversation, but they're too frightened, or they've gotten used to this dimension, or they've seen the light and they're just coming to find out what it's all about. Well, the nun and I argued back and forth for a while, and I tried to supply her with reasons and evidence and stories, but she was intractable. She wasn't going. So I turned to walk away thinking, oh well, her belief system's just too rigid. I didn't know how to help her, but then I had a thought. Archangel Michael might be able to help. I've done a bit of work over the years with Archangel Michael, so I reached out to see if he was around, and sure enough, he was. And I asked if he could help her, and he did. He materialized in full angelic form. He floated toward her with light beaming from his heart, and he stopped right in front of her, quite close actually, and unfurled his massive wings. It's quite impressive when he does that. It kind of stops you dead in your tracks. Well, the nun fell to her knees, and she started to cry. And through her tears, she said, "God has forgiven me. If I was with sin, an angel of the Lord would not appear to me." She stood up, she stepped forward, and she transitioned away. Through this work, I know that we are part of an ever-loving and forgiving universe. Every soul, regardless of its earthly experience and beliefs, has a journey to make after their death, and I'm honored to help them. The journey of the nun and the children reveals a truth that transcends time, culture, and belief. Every soul has a journey to make after death. This transition is a universal process. There's no final judgment, no eternal damnation, just cycle of learning, opportunities for growth, and the choice to move forward. The nun wasn't trapped by any external force. She was trapped by her own guilt, by the dogma of her religion, the belief that she could not be forgiven. It took the presence of Archangel Michael, a being of light and compassion, to help her recognize what had always been true. She was never forsaken, and neither are we. Over the 30-plus years I've been doing this work, I've come to know that the universe meets every soul with grace, acceptance, and unconditional love. In the realm of true spirituality, there is no damnation, only cycles of learning, opportunities for growth, and the continuous unfolding of the soul's journey. Love, not fear, is the guiding force of the universe. Forgiveness is the key, not just forgiving others, but forgiving ourselves. This spirit encounter challenges us to reflect. What beliefs are we holding on to that limit our own growth? How often do we let guilt or fear keep us from moving forward? If there's one lesson to take from this, it's that we are never truly lost. Not in life, not in death. The question is not whether we are worthy of love and healing, it's whether we are willing to step forward and receive it. If you want to take a deeper dive, there's a free ebook with beautiful lessons and reflections about this spirit encounter on my website. That's at eagleheart.com.au. And if you want to experience more ancient wisdom and sound healing, follow, subscribe, and be sure to click the notification bell so you can join me for more shamanic adventures. If you want to learn more about helping spirits move on, check out Soul Singers of Portugal, Neolithic Burial Rites. To meet more spirits that share our world, check out The Artist's Sacrifice, Spirit Guides at the Ancient Mesa.